Okay, now we're doing a line through 2, 5 with a slope of negative 2/3. So let's say this is the point 2, 5, and this line has a slope of negative 2/3. Then, if I draw a fundamental triangle from 2, 5 to the point x, y, what's the run and what's the rise? Sketch that fundamental triangle for me and label the run and the rise. Don't sketch the whole graph, just sketch a fundamental triangle and label the points 2, 5, and x, y. Okay, you've got to label the rise and the run. Okay? So you want to label the rise and the run because that's what you do in a fundamental triangle. Of course, you already know what the slope is. It's a little tricky, something you're not totally familiar with. But when you see it, you'll see that it's easy. Okay, didn't look at everybody's paper, but as I might have anticipated. Okay, what's the rise from 2, 5, or what's the run from 2, 5 to x, y? How do you get the run? If you've been doing the fundamental triangles like I've said, you're going to write out run equals like 7 minus 3 equals 4, right? Now, in this case, it's not 7 minus 3, there's no 3, and there's no 7. What's the run equal to? But what two coordinates do you subtract? You subtract the x coordinates, right? X coordinates are x and 2. Okay? So run is going to be x minus 2. Now quickly on your fundamental triangle. What's the rise? What minus what? You want to start by writing rise equal, like I did, and then what do you get? Okay, so we're still thinking about it. Almost, you got one little glitch there. Think about it. You'll see it when I get it out. Oh, I want to see it on the fundamental triangle, I don't have to look for it. Okay? No penalty this time. Oh, Ross. Here. It's his oversized shoes. Okay. Well, you don't have a y coordinate for the second point. All you've got is y. Okay, so think about that. Okay, so the rise is the y coordinate minus the y coordinate. It's y minus 5. Okay? So, what's the slope? Well, we know it's 2/3, but there's no information in that. I mean, there is. But in terms of what we label on the fundamental triangle, we're not going to get 2 over 3, okay? That's not going to be 2, and that's not going to be 3, okay? And of course, it's negative 2/3, but we can do that. So the slope is the rise over the run, okay? So we label it up here. Well, we also know the slope is negative 2/3, right? So big deal here. We have 2 expressions for the same thing, right? Negative 2/3 is certainly one of them, but you don't get negative 2/3 from this picture. You get y minus 5 over x minus 2, right? But if we got 2 things that are equal, what do we do with them? We write an equation. If 2 things are equal, we can write the equation, in this case, set one of them equal to the other. And the idea of getting 2 expressions for the same thing and then writing an equation is kind of a revelation to a lot of people at this level, okay? But it's something that we do all the time, so here's an example of it. Now, we can solve for y. How do we solve this for y? We multiply both sides by x minus 2. We'll do x minus 2 over 1. And we get this, right? Now we know that we could rewrite this as x minus 2 over x minus 2 times y minus 5 over 1, right? So we end up with just y minus 5. And then we use the distributive law. And I want to follow my recommended procedure here, so I'm going to have to go up to the top of the board. I don't have room to write it all out. Now, the problem is we still have a fraction. And we're best off avoiding calculations using fractions if we can. Can't always avoid them. So what do? We multiply both sides by the denominator 3. Well, the left side is 3y minus 15. 3 times negative 2/3, well, that's 3 over 1 minus times negative 2/3. It's negative 6 over 3, which is negative 2, right? Alternatively, you could rearrange this as 3 over 3 times negative 2 over 1. You get the same result. And then 3 over 3 is just 1, and you end up with negative 2. Okay, well, 3y minus 15 is negative 2x plus 4. Then we add 15 to both sides. I'm not going to write out that step, but everybody's pretty good with that. If I did it right, I get 19 on the right side with all this other stuff. So that y equals negative 2x plus 19 over 3, which equals negative 2x over 3 plus 19 over 3. It's a distributive law, because dividing by 3 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/3. You've got to divide both of these by 3, right? And common errors I see, especially if this is like a 6 or something, cancel the 3 with the 6 and forget to divide the 19 by the 3, which is another reason I hate cancellation. Okay? Because it causes people to make mistakes that are costly in their attempt to do well in the course, okay? So, there we have it. Now we kind of check this out with the picture. What's the y-intercept? Here's the equation. What's the slope? What's the y-intercept? The slope is negative 2/3. It better be, because that's what we said. The y-intercept is 19/3, right? That's a little over 6, right? 6 1/3. Does it make sense that this y-intercept would be about 6? Yeah. If I was estimating, I'd have probably estimated closer to 7, but it's not terribly wrong, okay? Simply that with the scale of my graph and everything, I didn't draw a good slope of negative 2/3. I wasn't careful to do that, okay? How do we check? The question is, does the equation work for the given point, which was 2, 5? Okay? Because there are two criteria, two things that have to occur to get the right, in order, well, if you've got the right equation, there are two ways, two things you've got to check. Is the slope negative 2/3? Well, yeah. If you accept that that's multiple of x, the coefficient of x is the slope when you put it in this one when you solve for y. Okay? And then you got to check that the point 2,5 is really on the line. So, we substitute into the equation, and we get y is 5. X is 2. Okay. We multiply everything by 3, and I'm going to kind of just do that. When I say multiply by 3, and I'm talking about an equation, I mean multiply both sides by 3. And we get 15 on this side. 3 times negative 2/3 is negative 2. And 3 times 19/3 is 19. And it's easy to see that negative 2 times 2 being negative 4 added to 19 gives you 15. So you get 15 equals 15. I was always taught to put a double underline, but I'm going to put a check on it just to make sure we understand that the check has worked, right? Okay? We good?